Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Oh, that's better. All right. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum again. I invite you all, if you've had to do any public speaking, you never like to look out and see your first rows all empty. So if you want to, if you're willing to, just move on up, come on up, because if you're expecting 45 minutes or 50 strong minutes of me just yammering at you, you're going to be disappointed. I like to benefit as much as I benefit, right? So I like to also receive, inshallah, right? So I like for any presentations I give to be interactive as much as possible. So today, or this evening, as Dr. Fadi mentioned, the topic that we want to look at is asking for help, right? And this sounds like a really simple thing, right? If you need help, you just holler help, all right? But we understand that this idea of help, first I'm going to give you, help is, we're framing a question. That's the first thing, right? So really what we're looking at is, we're looking at a question. And one of my mentors, he told me, he says that the quality of the questions that you ask is going to determine the quality of your life, right? Inquisition, the quality of the questions. And we know Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when he looked out into society, he felt something was wrong. There was something missing, right? There was something missing. He knew within his own soul and his nature that there were things that he was seeing, there were customs, there was behaviors that put him at odds. So there's a question that automatically comes out from that. What is wrong with this? How can this change? What must be done? What is my part in this? Right? Whether these are articulated or not, whenever we find ourselves in circumstances where we find the environment, we find the habits, the status quo, these things they don't align with our values, with who we are, questions arise, especially if we can't get out of those circumstances. So I want to first start out by giving that statement. Once again, the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. And this is attached to the mandate we have, which is to seek knowledge, right? We are told the Muslim, knowledge is the lost property, right? It is the lost property of every Muslim, right? So we go out, we are inquisitive, we are aware, and we seek to gain more knowledge. As a matter of fact, one of the dua we often make, or some fashion of it, which is to be protected, or we ask that we do not want knowledge that serves no purpose. Right? We don't want to take on knowledge that is not beneficial. So we ask Allah to increase us in beneficial knowledge. Now, so this idea of asking for help, and help also being attached to the questions and the quality of life overall, is important to as individuals, but more importantly, or as importantly, as communities, as elders, as parents, as brothers and sisters, whatever capacity we find ourselves in. And it's not something that's just confined to older people. This is something that the young folks also need to understand. The idea of what is help, right? When someone asks for help, or when we ask for help, what are we actually asking? What is the expectation? And I'll give you an example. My wife will give me, and I can say this because she's not here. This is not streaming either, right? No, it's not streaming. Okay. All right. So my wife, I love my wife. We've been married for 23 years, inshallah, in April. She will ask me often if something is going wrong with her phone. She likes to watch whatever she's watching on Hulu, on her phone, on her train ride to work, whatever. And I changed the password, and she says, babe, can you fix this for me? Can you help me with this? I send her the password. She says, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. I want you to do this for me. I want you to do it. She's asking for help, but what she's really asking is for me to do it for her, right? And because that's the dynamic of our relationship. There are things that she does for me. I'll say something and she'll do it, but she will ask for help. But I know what she's really asking is for me to do that thing. So that's one type of help. It's the help where somebody's asking, but they are not asking for you to show them how. They're asking for you to do it for whatever it is for them. And the second type of help is the help where a person recognizes a limitation of their abilities, their capacity, the access, whatever it may be. And they're asking for you to supplement their efforts. All right? I've got tools. I'll give you another quick. I'm a skilled tradesman, amongst many other things. I've been a structural iron worker for the past 15 years. So we put up buildings and bridges and, all manner of other construction. Now, so I have a certain set of tools that I work with. And I work closely with other tradespeople, plumbers, pipe fitters, electricians, carpenters, laborers, and so on. So I've picked up things over the years, right? And I'm inquisitive. I pay attention when I see people doing stuff. And now we also have something that we didn't have 20 years ago, which is YouTube. So now anybody, if you got tools and you got 15 minutes, 20 minutes to watch a video, you can walk yourself through the process of doing just about anything. If you got the tools and you know how to implement the process, right? But there are occasions where I'm doing work that's not related to my particular skill set. I'm doing some electrical work. I know my way around, a little bit. But I'm fixing some lights that aren't coming on. Hit the switch, the lights stay on. Cut the switch off, the lights stay on. So I've got to figure out, how do I do this? So I open up I pull the lights down, I'm looking, I take out a little wire tester, I'm looking for circuit, what's live and everything. And eventually I realize, as my wife is looking at me for hours and hours go on, and she keeps telling me, you need to call Abdul. You need to call Abdul. And I'm like, I got it, I got the tools, I know what I'm done looking at the video. And she tells me, after 2 hours, after 4 hours, after 8 hours, I finally call. He comes over the next day, 20 minutes, he's got the problem fixed. He tells me what to do. I do it, problem is solved, right? So that's a different type of help, right? But that help is also, that type of help is also dependent upon what? Number one, recognizing the limitations that you have. It's also dependent upon recognizing the resources that you have around you, right? So, and this means that we have to have what? In those situations, we have to have humility. We have to have humility in asking, or the question never gets asked. The help is never received. And sometimes we may be in a state of, I don't want to call it flat out arrogance. It's a measure of it, right? Or overestimation of our own ability. But in those moments, it's also a denial of the help that Allah has sent us. So the help that we ask for a lot of times, it's already around us. It's already around us. There's a saying that I've always heard growing up, and put your hands up if you have heard this before, and that is, the wisdom is in the room. Has anybody ever heard that? Well, alhamdulillah, I'm glad I brought you something. All right, so you got something that you had not known before, now you know. So say it with me, the wisdom is in the room. So, and that means exactly what it sounds like. It means that our collective resources, our collective ability, right? It is sufficient to whatever the challenge is that we face. So the wisdom is in the room. And so that, keeping that in mind, that keeps a single individual or a couple of individuals from thinking that they have all the answers. It keeps them from thinking or believing that they don't have to recognize the abilities or the talents of people that are around them, right? Because when we don't ask for help, we actually deny Allah's blessings. We actually deny Allah's blessings, right? There's a hadith, and I'm drawn towards those practical hadith that have, they have real world, and I don't want to say it's the wrong way, but they have practical application, practical value. Right? It says the best among you is the one who is the what? The what? The most helpful, the most what? Yeah, the best with his family, that's true, right? And the most useful, right? Helpful, useful. I like to, swap those out. All right, so the best among you is the one who is the most useful. How do you determine your usefulness? So this is a part of asking for help. How do you determine your usefulness? That means that in order to determine your usefulness, you must serve a need. You must serve a need. For every organization, for every organizational effort, charitable efforts, matter of fact, I don't have to go outside of us. As Muslims, this is a focus of ours, right? For zakat, we have there are 8 areas of zakat that deal directly with societal needs. And were those societal needs being addressed large scale, right, within our governmental structure, we would see a transformation in society, right? Because we would see an automatic inclusion of those who have the capacity and the ability to meet the challenges, meet the needs of society. So I'm going off a little bit. So what's required in order to determine usefulness? Recognizing the problem, right? Which means that we do what? We have to be observant. We have to ask questions. We have to do needs assessments. Anybody in here ever done a needs assessment? All right. My sister's always been on there. Everything, whenever I ask that question. All right, you find out what is missing, what is needed, who I need to bring in, right? So the needs assessment, it allows you to determine what is the condition, what's the of the community, what's the condition of my family. And mothers do this all the time in the home, conduct needs assessment, right? Especially whether you have children, if you have 1 or 2 and if you happen to have, as my mother has, 5 children running around, she was doing needs assessment all the time, right? Who needs to get here at this time? Who needs new shoes? Who needs to get themselves in a bed? Who needs help in school? Whatever it is, there's a needs assessment. So once the need is determined, then we're able to determine what resources are actually needed. Right? And before we ask for help, what is the first thing we do? The independent individual, right? And I use independent sparingly, right? Because we understand that Allah is the only independent, is the only one who is without need, right? We understand that. So when we use the word independent, we're using it within the confines of understanding our own ability, understanding, as we mentioned in I can't remember which one it was, but in today's khutbah about intentions, right? Recognizing how much capacity do I have to bring my intentions to fruition. All right, if I say I'm going to build a shed, as long as I have the use of my body and I got my tools, I can build a shed. Right? Now, if I say I want to go to the moon, that's a different circumstance, right? It's a whole lot more that goes into that. Now, one of the things I mentioned earlier about do it for me or show me how to do it, it's important for us to understand when we think about asking for help, we do this with the understanding of what is the desired outcome, what has the law designed or intended for each of us, right? And this still, we'll go back to usefulness, but what is the desired outcome? The desired outcome is that we be which serves Safat, those ranged in ranks, right? It says go forth as in a solid cemented structure. That means that everybody in this structure, everybody in line, brings value to that line, brings strength. They strengthen the individual next to them. Each side, they bring value. They bring strength. They bring skill set. They may have common skill sets, but they also have individual skill sets, individual abilities that may not necessarily be like the ones that the person next to them has. So we're looking to come into full maturation, full development, right? Recognizing our potential, full potential. Now, that doesn't happen. What happens if somebody asks you to do something for them and you do it, and they come back to you again and ask you for the same thing, and you do it again, and they come back to you again and ask you for the same thing? What do you say? What's going on there? Is this a person that has come into their independence? I see heads shaking. Maybe, no? Is this a person who is simply waiting for you to do whatever it is to complete that objective for them? Are they maturing? Are they becoming stronger? Could be lazy. Could be, but I would like to even go a step further than that, because I think that often is the, Yes, they are definitely limited. They're limited. But I want to also bring out of that we have to understand the culture, right? The culture of asking for help. And there's a culture, it's innate, what Allah has placed within us, in the child, to ask for help, right? Or if you have the rebellious, I shouldn't say rebellious, my oldest, she's 21 now. I have 21-year-old twins, identical twins, and a 19-year-old. And my oldest, when she was about 4 and started really trying to experiment with dressing herself, she insisted on wearing her pants with the waistband like right up underneath, the breastbone, all the way up. And we tell her, no, Zakiya, let me show you how you're supposed to, wear your pants. No, I can do it myself, right? I can do it myself. Zakiya, let me help you put your shoes on. No, I can do it myself. Now, when she needed help with something, you help me put my coat on. Let me help you. And you start to help her put it on, and then she snatched it away from you and say, okay, I got it. I can do it myself. Right? So there's kind of an innate sense of a desire for independence. A desire for independence that is going to receive help in a different way. So I'll allow you to help me only as much as I'm unable to help myself. All right, and that's a different type of asking. And that's also a different type of a culture. When you have that as the norm for people who ask for help, then help is received in a different way. It's given in a different way as well. But often what we see, and as I say this, I'm really speaking to myself as well, because our masjid and other nonprofits I've worked with, we've done these food drives, right? I'm sure you all probably have done the same thing. Done food drives and given food out to the same people, right? Week after week, giving food out to the same people, right? And they keep coming back. Their condition has not changed. And at the beginning, you feel good. You feel a sense of, alhamdulillah, I was here. I was able to give back, right? But in this state, what happens? We get stuck into a cycle of dependence, a cycle of dependence, right? And those who are receiving help, they never get to the point where they get to put on their own socks. They can put on their own coat, right? It's a constant state of help. And one of the most beautiful things for us to realize, and it's humbling as well, right? We understand that the hand that does this is better than the hand that does what? This, right? It is better. It is more reward in us for us to be able to give, right, than for us to have to be the recipient of sadaqah, right? Have to be the recipient of charity. But we also understand that this is also a cycle. There will be different moments in time. We may not necessarily have to depend upon food, somebody giving out food, but we certainly find ourselves in moments where we are dependent on those who know more than us, right? And we have to be willing to ask. And the only way that you can really have your fullness as a human being is to look for those opportunities where you're able to do this, where you're able to give. Right? So the cycle of dependence is one that has culturally, it has crippled many in our society. Right? And it's a fostered dependence. It's a dependence that it is intended to subvert the growth and the maturation of human beings. And our deen is one that really protects. Right? When Allah says that He has created us in the best of molds, that He has created us with dignity, right? Our deen is one that protects it, even in answering the call for help, even in giving charity and giving assistance. One of the things that we do, there's not many things that I will point to personally, but I thank Allah for the awareness of when we give our food, we don't take, or clothing, we don't take pictures of the people. We take pictures of ourselves. This is the crew. We got together, alhamdulillah, another day, right? And we do that with the express purpose, the intent of preserving the dignity of those who need help, right? Not to turn them into a marketing tool, not to put ourselves up over them, right? Absolutely. The wrong politicians, right? And this is also why it is really critical as Muslims that we understand that people are asking for something that we may not even recognize they're asking for. People are asking for good governance. People are asking for wholesome entertainment. People are asking for good education, sound education. People are asking for safe neighborhoods. They're asking for all of these things, and many times there's not a word that ever comes out of their mouths. These are things that are in the souls of people. They're asking things in very much the same way that many of us do, that many around on this planet do. They're asking them in the form of dua. They're asking them in the form of there's a discontent within themselves for the conditions that they see, the conditions that they're in. And they're asking for help, but they often don't know who to ask because, as you just mentioned, the culture of service, the culture of asking or answering the call for help is one that turns that into a commodity. It turns it into a photo op, right? So it's no sincerity in it. And we know that is one of the tenets of our faith. It says our deen is what? It is sincerity. It's sincerity. If there's no sincerity in our action, there's no sincerity in our words, there's no sincerity in just our coming and our going, then nothing that we do actually matters. Then we wind up actually like, Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to read Surah Al-Kahf, right? What is was it the last ayat or the second to last ayat? Talks about those who lose most in this life. Those who thought they're acquiring good by their deeds, but they're actually the ones who they lose most because they had no taqwa, they had no real reverence for Allah. They just did things for the sake of doing them. They did things because they made them look good, right? They did things because, it made them feel good, but they didn't do things thinking about that final meeting that they would have, right, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, I want to segue into, I guess, another important aspect of asking as it pertains to health. I'm not health, but help. And that is the expectation. All right, when we offer dua, we ask Allah, whatever we supplicate, whatever we ask for Allah, right? That's between us and Allah. We understand that because our intention, the intention in our creation is one, to be of what? It is to be of service. We have the responsibility of stewardship, right? Is anybody in here does not want to be a steward? Put your hand up. Everybody knows what a steward is, right? Yeah. So is there anybody in here that says, nope, I'm just not going to do it? I'm not going to be a caretaker. I'm not going to be in this Khalifa club. I'm just, that's not what I'm going to do, right? That's not even a question for us. So even when we offer our silent prayers, even when we offer our dua, our silent petitions to Allah, we understand that we are offering these things knowing that we are put here to give. We are put here to serve. We're here to rise to the occasion. So whatever help that we receive, it's going to be help that furthers us along in that. It's not going to we're not just looking for, oh Allah, take all my bills away. And then you get just looking for a letter the next day saying that all your bills have been forgiven. I want to meet that person. That's not the way things work. The way the examples that we have been given, at least one of them that I love to look to, is the example of Musa alayhi salam. When he's had this situation, he's about to, the people are coming for him, right? They say, look, you got to get out of here. They coming for you. They done heard you kill this man. They're coming for you. You got to go. And he's ready to leave. What does he say? Anybody know the exact ayah that he said? What he says? No? All right, I'm going to tell you. One, I'm going to paraphrase it for you. He says, my Lord, I'm indeed in need of any help, of any good that you can send me. Any good that you send me. It's not necessarily a question. It's a cry for help. It's a recognition. It's a recognition of need, that my circumstances are beyond my capacity. I don't have anybody at this particular moment that's going to come to my defense, right? I can't get out of this by myself, so whatever you can give me, I'm in need of that. So did Allah send, what did Allah do? How did Allah answer that? Allah sent him an opportunity to be of service. He meets these two young women, right? These two shepherds. And all of the men are watering their flocks, and they have to wait. They got to sit back and wait. And he comes along, and, they give him the whole rundown. Our father's a, very old man. We out here by ourselves. We're doing the best we can. And he waters their flocks for him. He winds up going back. He takes on a wife. And we know the progression of his story. Allah sent him an opportunity to be of service. He asked for good. He was asking for relief. And Allah said to him, here, well, go ahead and be of service. And of course, he didn't have to do that. He could have simply sat there and minded his own business. That doesn't concern me. Completely different trajectory. So when we ask for help, after we've already taken stock of our own ability, we've already taken stock of what we're able to do in that moment. When we ask for help, especially when we giving it up to Allah, we should be looking for what is the next opportunity? Where can I give? Where can I give? Where can I be of assistance? I've seen single elderly sisters who are on Social Security, right? They got a small pension maybe. And these are some of the most reliable. These sisters constantly putting $5 in the zakat, right? In the box. Constantly come along, day 5, I don't have much, but I'm giving something. I am giving something. Once we are reduced to the point where we do no longer recognize that we have something to give, right, then that is when we are truly depleted. We always have something to give. And our redemption, I shouldn't say but the answer to our prayers is often found in what we are willing to do for others. How we are willing to be aware of and respond to the needs of others. Okay, I'm just doing a little time check. So help has there are two sides to it, because help is a transformational process. And it can transform us into independent people, right, who pull themselves up, who band together, who strengthen one another, or it can turn us into dependent people who lose sight of the collective, and their only focus is on themselves, right? But that is something that is that's acculturation. That's something that is learned. It's learned behavior. It's a learned norm. So I invite us, as we think about help, to consider our abilities, but also to consider that statement, the wisdom is in the room. That means to consider those around us, the talents and the abilities that are around us, that actually enrich us, or have the possibility, the potential to enrich our lives and make us better people, and offer us a stronger footing in community. So, what do you all think? I need help. You need, we all need help. We all need help.
Is the welfare system enabling or disabling system in your thoughts?
I believe if you didn't hear, it says the welfare system enabling or disabling. From what I have studied and what I've seen of it, I believe it was intentionally designed in a way to make people dependent. I believe its impact, particularly in the African American community, policy changes going back to, I believe it's like 1970, it was early 70s, I think, 71, 72, something like that, where benefits were tied to the presence of or the absence of a man or the father in the home. So the willful separation, the intentional separation of the family unit, of course, there's nothing good that comes from that.
But the racial divide is dissipating and going away, by the way. I think it's a myth. It's merely African American. It's not. From my own observation,
Yeah.
it's more education these days than it is really African American.
Oh, no.
It's clustered into the African American
Yeah.
society.
No, you're absolutely right about that. And this also goes to the power of perception. Because just in sheer numbers, there are far more white folks on receiving benefits than there are, African American. But what has been presented, right? Who's asking for help and how they're asking for it, right? And what this says about them as human beings, as people, because they're asking. That face has been ascribed towards African American, towards black folks in America, right? And we got to deal with the perception of that. But the reality, it has been a destructive force for all America. And that's something that we have to contend with.
To the extent people don't want to work.
Some people don't. That's true. That is true. But that's also something that has been fostered. That's what I said, the idea, there's a culture of asking. There's a culture of expectation, right? If the culture is such that we're going to help you in helping yourself, right? That is one of the, everybody's heard, or have you heard? My wife always tells me, stop saying, I know you know this, right? But do for self. Anybody familiar with that phrase, do for self?
It's a story, it's a story. The story here is the name is do yourself.
Oh, really? So that is a mantra, a statement that came out of the first experience, as it was mentioned from Dr. Fadi, that I'm a product of the Sister Clara Muhammad school system. That Imam Warthadi Muhammad, who took over he was elected as the leader of the Nation of Islam and made the pivot into Orthodox Islam back in '75. But from the nation, there was a lot of good that came from that. One of those things was the idea of do for self, right? Do for self, right? We are going to be the answer to our problems. We're going to be the answer to whatever the challenges that we have. It was really putting the idea of those ranged in ranks into real practice, right? So it was a real banding together. But and I mentioned all of that just to say that if that becomes a culture, then it's evident when people see one person ask for help, but they also see them participating in their help, right? Then that becomes expectation. That becomes the norm. We're looking at the opposite of that right now because that's not what is desired.
It's amazing. It starts with the individuals and it goes to nations across the planet.
I would push back on that. I would say actually it's reciprocal, right? Because we understand Adam alayhi salam, his creation was really about social management. It was about responsibility for society. It was not just but we understood that if he was not, if he didn't have resolve, if he didn't have remembrance, then he couldn't be effective in his position, right, of discharging authority. But it was always, our presence as Muslim is really tied to this, is really tied to us righting society. So we can't simply look at the individual and say the individual has fallen off because we're big picture thinkers. If that's one thing that Allah has given us, He's given us the ability to see things on a large scale, that we're responsible for the individuals, to making sure that they're in the right system, have the right values, because we take on what is around us. You know? Yeah. Well, I think you all, are we good?
Yeah, we're good. 8 o'clock is the show.
Okay.
We have like 4.5 minutes.
4.5 minutes. Well, I would love to hear what type of service, regular service events do you all have?
What do you mean, sir?
Like, is there a particular community service that that Muslim Unity Center is known for? Interfaith.
And food drives.
Okay.
The neighbors, the school districts and stuff like that. Very actively engaged within the society around us, across the spectrum.
Okay. Alhamdulillah.
So we're not really secluded in that cave, you know.
Yeah. Obviously not. Obviously not. Really? Alhamdulillah. That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing.
Is Chicago different than Detroit?
No, we're all the same. We yeah, same mission. And I would dare say we've got a lot of the same challenges, which also means we got some of the same opportunities. Yeah, and it's, as I kind of travel around, it's refreshing to see that the things that I may have complained about at home. Yeah, they say. So alhamdulillah, we're all engaged in the same work. Yeah. But I think one of the challenges that we have is really expanding how we give help. And I think because we have a number of interfaith efforts that we work with. And that is changing it from I don't want to see the same people when I come back out to give out food. I don't want to see the same people. So how do we yes, I want to see somebody new, right? We want to see less people, right? The narration, Umar, radiallahu anhu, sending folks out to give zakat, right? And they keep coming back. We ain't got nobody. Well, fine, go to the non-Muslims now, right? What a beautiful problem to have. So that's transformative. And I think that's the opportunity that we have. How do we really use our collective resources and ability to help people help themselves?
How is the da'wah business in Chicago?
Thriving, I think. I think. Go ahead.
A certain spectrum of society or just some triangle, everybody from ethnicities and faith and colors?
Yeah, there are more white Muslims, folks that are quote unquote listed under white Caucasian. There are more Latino Muslims, Spanish-speaking Muslims that are coming into the deen. There are more. I mean, so yeah.
Ourselves, or we are bringing in.
You mean are they? Yeah, no, they're coming in because of I think a lot of dawah efforts. Of course, there are people that are coming in of their own curiosity and yeah. But I think the challenge that rests within that, even how we look at dawah, keeping them on track, but also understanding that we have a much larger mission than simply getting people to come in so they're in the masjid and they give us a zakat, right? It really is about social transformation. It says Allah says He's raised us up for the benefit of humanity, right? Not just for the benefit of Muslims, but the benefit of humanity, which means we're needed in every field that forms society, that informs social values. We're needed in government, in politics, education, everything, entertainment. We're needed in these places. So if we're doing da'wah to bring folks in, we should also be making sure that we're sending them back out as well. Yeah. Wa yakum. Oh, alhamdulillah.